Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to this week's edition of Open Dialogue. We've got a fascinating show for you today, which is going to focus on primarily this week, which is the week of Hajj, and the week in which people are flocking to the Khana Kaaba, the focal point for all Muslims' ultimate worship. And during this week of Hajj, quite often we can look at that purpose of going to Hajj simply in terms of spiritual replenishment. That's but one purpose. But there are writers who've spoken about the social, political, or cultural impact of Hajj. Not only the impact of the Hajj itself, but also the actual impact of the various rituals. And rituals is probably the focal point of our discussion today. You know, what is it about rituals and faith that binds people? What is it about rituals that attracts flocks of faithful and believers, whether they're Catholic, Christians, or whether they're sort of Shia or Sunni, or whether they're Buddhist? Every faith has its rituals. Why is it that human beings have a propensity to require rituals? The rituals which existed in the Hajj were often known to be pre-Islamic. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was often replenishing rituals set by Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam many years earlier. So this continual connection between prophethood, revelation, and rituals leads often to also symbols and symbolism. And what are the symbols of the various faiths? It's a very touchy subject as well, because as the program progresses, we'll move from the rituals and symbols of Hajj, more or less all of which are common to all Muslims, but then we may gradually start exploring the rituals and symbols which have evolved and developed during the course of Islamic history, and different Muslims with different cultural emphasis and different circumstances have evolved their own particular rituals specific to their tribe, perhaps specific to their family, often only specific to certainly nationalities. And these rituals and these symbols can often be the source of trouble. They can often be the source of difference. They can become the first reference point for other people who may label themselves with the same faith label. And yet, when they see the rituals and they see the symbols promoted by other members of their faith, they often stoop to the levels of judgment immediately. They often reprimand people, often create senses of superiority without investigating, without looking carefully at what the meaning of those rituals are, the meaning of those symbols are. And I would argue that the Shia are probably one of the prime victims of this kind of judgmentalism, because symbolism and ritual within the Shia Islamic heritage is absolutely central to the character and the evolution of Shia thought, Shia political expression, Shia social expression. And many people, to be honest, if you ask them the polemical aspect of Shia Islam or any kind of Islam, if you went to the doctrinal and polemical and the dogmatic side, they probably would know very little. Ask them about the rituals and they immediately connect. So again, coming back to my original premise, what is it about rituals and symbolism which is so powerful, which is so connective? And what are the positive and negative aspects of ritualism? This is an exploration which we're going to attempt within this program, both in part 1 and part 2, but it's actually also a series of programs specifically focusing on the rituals of the Shia, which is going to be something very imperative with Muharram on the way, obviously with Hajj and Eid coming up, but then Muharram not far off. I think it's very important that we begin to come to terms with what actually these rituals and these symbols mean to us, in order that we can not only maybe practice them in the right spirit, but also that perhaps we can also educate others about them when we are questioned. Quite often we don't have the answers. So it's very much an explorative education. With me to join me on this journey today, I have Firstly, Brother Suhail Johan, welcome to the show, Suhail.
Janab, Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no stranger to Ahl Bayt TV, and you know him very well within the circle of the Noha Khans and the various people who present all their poetry and their sort of recitals on various issues and topics based on Islamic commemoration. So Suhail is going to guide us through, I think, in the latter part of the show, or perhaps even earlier, the issues around Shia religious ritual. But we also will be joined by Aghay Maulana Musharraf Hussaini, who will also perhaps shed further light on Hajj and its significance. Before we move on to Maulana Musharraf Hussaini, I'd like to share this short clip about Hajj, just to mark out the specific rituals of Hajj. The specific rituals of Hajj. The specific rituals of Hajj.
وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر والقدر خيره وشره من الله والبعث بعد الموت لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله الله Faith is belief in Allah and the messengers, the angels and the
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. I'm breathing a sigh of relief because Aghay Maulana Musharraf Hussaini Qibla is here with us to rescue us on the Hajj issue. Otherwise, if you were left to me, I think you'd probably be in serious trouble in terms of your Hajj ritual aspects. Maulana, welcome to the show. Thank you for arriving in the nick of time. But we have this topic of Hajj, which I'm going to expand, as you possibly heard as you were arriving, the idea of ritual and symbolism in faith. And it's a very vast topic, but I'm going to try and cover not only the significance of the rituals of Hajj, the symbolism of Hajj, but the meaning of the Hajj rituals and symbols themselves, and then lead on to the kind of rituals and symbols that have evolved within various Sufi orders, various the Shia Maktab-e Fikr, the Jafri school, the various other schools of thought, how various practices have emerged, and continue that theme of the power of ritual, the power of symbolism in not only maintaining faith but guiding it and perhaps holding it together, and the bonding that perhaps occurs. So we're going to look at it from very much a social perspective, perhaps a cultural perspective as well, this idea of rituals and symbolism. So, I mean, to begin with, the Hajj is clearly one of those, it's one of those acts of Islam which is rife with symbolism, rife with ritual. I am going to maybe take the viewers on a short journey about some of the key rituals that take place during Hajj, and if you could educate us a little bit about those. And I mean, I think pick the one of your choice, the one, I mean, I could throw, you know, the Safa Marwa, I could throw all sorts of other, the throwing of the pebbles at the stone which symbolizes the shaitan. But you go according to your pace and give us a little summary of the rituals. I mean, just before I do this, I'm going to throw at you Dr. Ali Shariati in his book on his version of Hajj and what Hajj meant. Perhaps later we'll pick up the Dr. Ali Shariati premise around Hajj. But let's go for your approach first.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, how much time we have got?
2 hours.
Okay, that's fine.
You're ready for an epic.
Yeah. First of all, you know, we come to the religion.
Yes.
what is the need? What's the duty of a religion? Why do we need a religion? The duty of a religion is to clear the mind of the human beings. Number one, is there a creator or there's no creator? The world is with a creator. It has got a creator or there's no creator. Number two, if there is a creator, then create a link between the creation and the creator. This is the main job, this is the main theme of the religion. That's what we need the religion for. If there's no creator, eat, drink, and enjoy your life because you only live once. There's only life once. So keep on enjoying. Do whatever you feel like. You are not bound to anybody. But if there is a creator, then another question arises. That did he create us with an aim and objective or without an aim and objective? Obviously, we don't create anything without an aim and objective. We create anything we make. We make even a pen. You tell a company, oh, I want a pen to make. He said, what you want it for? Just for one use, two uses, or you want to keep it permanently, and you want to tell your social status through the pen, or you want to write it with the ink or with the ball pen? What type of pen? There are 1,000 questions that need to be answered before making that ball pen. So Allah also created us with an aim and objective. We need to search that aim and objective. First, I don't want to go into the deep philosophy and taking you away from the Hajj.
Sure.
Coming back to that, Hajj is at Kaaba. The creation of Kaaba is not at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nor at the time of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. It's before, right at the time of Adam, the Kaaba in some shape, it was there, the central point for the people to come and join. It was a point of unity. You can call it the center of gravity for mankind created was Kaaba. It is everything has got a center of gravity where everybody converge and come and the point. And after that, because of the storm, because of the winds, because of the geographical conditions, at the time of Prophet Ibrahim, they were raising the boundary, the walls again, they were risen again. This is what Quran tells us. And now it has become a center point of our Hajj. Hajj, everybody comes there. Everybody comes there. It's a point. And one more thing I would like to say that, like the rituals, where does these rituals come from? And for example, say we are the followers of Ahlul Bayt school of thought. Why are the rituals in Iran different than the rituals in Iraq, and they are different from the rituals in, for example, Lebanon or Saudi Arabia or Syria or Pakistan or India? Why are these rituals different? Because people accepted Islam from different places. They had their own cultures. They had their own way of life. And they tried to adjust their own cultures with Islam. Anything which was not in confrontation with the rules and regulations of Islam, they brought those things into Islam. And from there, the rituals and all these cultural things, they came and joined Islam. Now, when Islam is moving and the people around the globe, they are moving together and they're getting together, we find differences. These differences needs to be summarized, We need to summarize these things. Islamic culture in itself is a culture. Like greeting someone, you go around the world, you will find thousands of ways to greet others in different people, in different
It's a sort of
cultures.
ritual.
Yeah, but how does Islam say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, for example?
Peace be upon you.
Yeah, it's a prayer. It's something praying for someone. Assalamu alaikum, praying to someone that blessing be on you. Why? Reminding a person that there is someone from where the blessings are coming. And number two, I say blessing be on you. It's an agreement between you and me. That if I want blessing on you, that means you are safe from me. Your property, your honor, your dignity, your respect is safe for me. It's not just Assalamu alaikum. It's not just saying hello or ke ale vadiyat. It's not like that. It's something like when I'm saying blessing be on you, that means I want that the blessing should come, then nothing but blessing you can expect from me. You are safe from me. We don't have any enemy. We are on a positive note. Now, this is a culture. We living with parents, we're living with children, living in a society, living with Muslims, living with other schools of thought of Islam, living with non-Muslims, living with atheists who don't believe in Allah at all. That everything has been well defined by the religion in Islam, and we have to live in peace with them. And Islam says yet you can bring other, just convince them. You can't tell them to come and become a Muslim. No. You have to convince them. If they're convinced, it's their wish that with their own free will, people accept Islam.
Okay, that's a very good overall contextual rendition of what perhaps rituals mean for faith and people of faith. That they almost act as an axis, as a point of reference, as pillars almost that hold together.
Joining people, bringing people together.
We'll carry on with that theme, and we will have Sheikh Amin Evans joining us on the Skype line fairly shortly as well to add his perhaps historical analysis of where a lot of these rituals begin later in the show. But for now, I'm going to share another clip because these rituals, which you've seen earlier in terms of the Hajj, Maqam Ibrahim, the rituals around that, the rituals around the shaitans, the pebble throwing, the Safa Marwa. These we will have to analyze. I think there's some people out there who probably still don't know exactly why we do these things. And it might be worth just picking on 2 or 3 of those when you collect your thoughts, and we'll try to define why those occur. But this clip should give you an idea of how rituals permeate the Islamic society and what range of rituals have evolved and how some of those rituals can also become objectionable to people whose cultural sensibilities may not be the same as the other kind of Muslims. But this little clip will give us further insight.
Last night I went to stone the Jamarat again, this time stoning the 3 Jamarat, and you can see the people on the upper section, which is the safer section, and at night it's relatively easy. And again, stoning shaitan, this was...
So a brief clip which basically took us on a journey through the various kinds of rituals that have evolved in different parts of the Islamic world, some central to the Hajj within that clip as well. But let's stick to the Hajj and the rituals around the Hajj. Some of the rituals predate the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously, and he maintains them. He doesn't change them at all. Is that true?
Yes, actually, as I said, that the Deen Islam started with Hazrat Adam. It doesn't started with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Islam in the Dina in the Allah Islam. It was all Islam, from Adam till the Prophet Muhammad, and they were different stages. And with the mental level of the human race going up, the teachings level went up. It was all Islam. So you can't say that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam included from anything from any other religions. It was from Islam, and like education in the primary is different than that on the higher and the secondary level, and in the college level and the university level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's focus on a specific. The 7 circumambulations.
Yes.
Let's start with that, the central thing, with the image which captures the world when they actually look at Hajj. The most pivotal image is the Khana Kaaba with a shot from above, with people circumambulating. What's the origin? What's the origin of that?
You know, origin of the Hajj in itself is like, as you said in the previous discussion, that people from different cultures, people from different geographic entities, they're coming for Hajj. The first thing they do, let's start with the first thing, they put on the ihram. It's a simple clothing. And you have to take off all your ornaments and everything else. You are unified. You have taken off everything. Your clothes, your hairstyles, your beauty, your personal attractions, your culture, everything is gone. It's just simple.
A rejection of materialism, a
everything.
rejection of everything else that you carried with you.
Everything. That we have added to Islam, we have added to Deen, that's gone on the very first step. That's the first step we have to do. Take a bath. Take a bath, your oils, your perfumes, your everything is gone. It's just 2 pieces of cloth on your body. And for women, for example, the white clothing that they have on that everything else subtracted from your life, from your imagination, from your world. You are in reality, as you were describing, Dr. Shariati also, it's just like the Day of Judgment. On the Day of Judgment, when the dead ones will rise, they will be wearing white cloth shirt on them. And it's exactly that we are presenting ourselves to Allah. How we'll do that? We're just doing an exercise. Practically we are doing. Hajj in itself, they said, it cleans you from the sins. It cleans you from your contamination of our mind, of our thoughts, our mind. What I think of Islam, that's gone. We come to the real Islam and we ask Islam what you are. It's not what I think of Islam. And I should, you know, in everybody's imagination, we have got a picture of Islam. Islam is for that. Like for Hajj, what does it mean? Yes, it's from the infinite being. What he said, do Hajj like this. I can imagine about a small part of Hajj according to my understanding, but I can't understand the infinite creator telling why did he do this?
Well, I give an example as a layperson. If you look again at, focus on that image of the Khana Kaaba and the people revolving around it, that's quite reminiscent of, say, planets orbiting perhaps the sun. The idea of people revolving
around,
around
what is Kaaba?
In a very
an
sort
empty
of
house, an empty room. There's nothing in it. What Allah has told us, what Allah is just a name that we understand. Do we understand His physique? How does He look like? How does it be? Yes, we understand Allah by the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is also, in my opinion, a point for the mankind to understand Allah. You can't understand Him with the features. He didn't confine us to His feature. He brought us to our attributes, that we should be diverted, our mind, our soul, our thoughts should be diverted towards the features of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is Rahman, He is Rahim. The first introduction of Allah is Rahman and Rahim. Here in Kaaba is an empty house. What's the empty room? There's nothing in it.
Okay, Suhail, I'm going to bring you in this because in on the conversation here, because on the one hand we have these rituals and we have this practice, but let's bring emotion into this. Let's bring feelings into this. As an individual who may have had parents who've gone to Hajj, or maybe you yourself, I don't know whether you've been to Hajj, but I would have thought that the other angle, and I want to juxtapose this and come back to the rituals again, but the feelings that people should have, the intention that people should have, the journey that people should be making, and then the emotions and the feelings they should be, generating. That's something that I think, as a person who's very involved with the creative delivery of a lot of rituals and a lot of ritualistic activity from a Shia Islamic perspective, I'm sure that you relate quite strongly to that, I would have thought, the emotional aspect.
Yes, I suppose everybody would. The thing is, as soon as you make that decision that we're going to go on Hajj this year, we're going to perform the Hajj this year, then I'm sure for everyone it's slightly different. But it's the journey begins there mentally. But can I just digress? I was just want just for a second, because you mentioned something really interesting, and that set my mind on something completely different. You're talking about the circumambulation of the Khana Kaaba and that ritual, and then you mentioned the solar system and the galaxy, etc., etc. This is a scientific phenomenon that everything revolves, and it just goes to show yet another way, possibly, that how there is no disparity between science and Islam. There must be, nothing happens without reason. It happens for a reason. Especially in Islam, everything, there's a reason for doing everything, whether it's regarded as being ritualistic or whether it's something which is obligatory. But isn't it not interesting that this circular motion that is endemic throughout the universe, whether we're talking about the Milky Way, the galaxies, etc., our solar system, or whether we're talking the atoms and the nuclei with the electrons, protons, etc., all circumambulating around the nucleus. So it's a formula which clearly has something to it, whether that be from a religious perspective or from a materialistic or scientific perspective. So I just thought there's something out there for people to, for another day, when you're talking about Islam and science.
Yeah, we're launching an Islam and science series. So
that would be really interesting.
I'm sure the scientists will have a field day on these kind of things,
yeah,
looking
indeed.
at rituals and science.
Indeed.
As well. Yeah.
But coming back to the Hajj, I do talk to a lot of people. And how do you feel about something, whether it's Hajj or whether it's Ziyarat or whatever? And the journey starts from the niyat, where as soon as the niyat is done and you're confirmed you're going to go, it starts from there. And then and as you approach that date closer and closer, the cleanliness of the mind, the cleanliness of the heart, I mean, it is obligatory, Qibla will clarify on this, that we should clear whatever is in the air with our family, friends and people, especially if we have any grievances with anyone or if we've aggrieved someone. We should seek their forgiveness before we go away. I mean, that in itself, just that one act, surely tells us so much about what Hajj should be about. What it is a different thing, but I mean, what it should be about.
I've got Sheikh Amin Evans with us, and I'm going to hopefully hold him through the show with us to stay with us and keep involved in the conversation. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Amin.
Wa alaikum salam, Sayyid Rashid.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Very good. We have Maulana Musharraf Hussaini and Suhail Chauhan with us as well. I don't know whether you know that, but they're here as well.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Well, Sheikh, I mean, today's topic is, well, it's always a challenging one on open dialogue, and I'll always put in my my kind of investigative hat on, but probably in the second part. At the moment, we're just laying the ground for what Hajj means. We've talked about the emotional elements that may be involved in there. We've talked about the ritual aspect, and it's the ritual and the symbolism of actions amongst Muslims that we're focusing on this program, although the Hajj is clearly the focal point initially. We're going to move on later to the symbolism and rituals which are generated across the Muslim world and beyond, and their purpose, and look at it from various different angles. I'm going to bring the name of Dr. Ali Shariati back again into the conversation, but I'm interested in looking at Hajj and its rituals and symbolism from a slightly alternative perspective. One obviously is the spiritual replenishment that people desire that when they're going with the intention, but clearly Hajj is more than that, and whether the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam intended it to be more than that is a matter for Maulana to confirm a little later. But what's your take on the wider significance of Hajj and its symbolism and rituals?
Hajj draws us back into the mindset of being an ummah.
We can't hear, I think my guests can't hear you at the moment, Sheikh Amin, so I'm going to ask the production room to just make sure the sound's coming through so they can share the conversation.
Right.
Yeah, we've got you in the studio now. Excellent. We can all hear you.
Oh, good. I'll say salam again. Hajj draws us into being one ummah again. Within the rituals, I found a tremendous personal individualism of being united through the rituals and the sequence of rituals into an almost tribal overreach, where we all do things together, but as individuals, individually submitting to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So that individual submission within a wider Unitarian demonstration, that's quite symbolic of prayer as well, isn't it? Our daily salah, it's a similar thing. You're individually praying, but within a congregation all too often. So again, another theme that continues, another ritual, a major ritual of Islam, prayer, the 5 times daily prayer, also carries that sense of bringing the ummah together and then perhaps individually participating in something which is congregational and unity orientated. Are you still with us, Sheikh Amin? I'm not sure whether I lost you there.
Yes, I'm still with you.
Yes, you're still with us. You're not with the Woolwich. Okay, that was an old advert. If you're old enough to remember that one, you should be well past your 50s. But
well, I've got the strength of the insurance companies around me as well. The other major thing where we see this sense of individuality and unity is in business, where the ethics of business are laid out by religion, by our families, and yet we trade as individuals to earn wealth for our families.
so again, it's that sense of unity. For you, Hajj seems to be very much about the unity aspect. Let me throw another thing into the mix. The traveling and the journey in the days of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was partly people who were just from Mecca doing the Hajj, but then there would have been people perhaps from as far as maybe what is now Lebanon, or even as far as
Africa.
People would have been coming from all over the place. So that journey strikes me as being something very, very fundamental and important as well, because what happens when people make physical journeys, probably in those days, they were opening themselves up to all sorts of danger, uprooting home and house, taking their lives into their hands, because what would happen along the way is maybe brigands and all sorts of incidents. So stay on the line, Sheikh Amin, but I'm going to come to Maulana on this one, that this travelling process, today we've got jumbo jets. And
Airbus also.
Okay. Airbuses. Does it take away from the journey aspect to Hajj, that people have sometimes maybe missed the message, and we're looking for 5-star hotels, the best possible accommodation, we're looking for the best possible travel there. Is this all in the spirit of Hajj?
It must do. How can it possibly equate to the same Hajj where you are maybe on camelback, horseback or whatever, or walking for months? How can that possibly equate to something which is a few hours journey with your iPhone stuck to your ear, still dealing with business, right until the hostess tells you to turn it off? It cannot be the same journey.
Well, the hardship that I hear from Hajis who come back, and often they'll tell you about the conditions of the lavatories and some of the trials and tribulations they have to go there, largely because of the mass number of people. That seems to be a different kind of trial and tribulation from the one that used to be there the old days, i.e. the journey. So I'm not trivializing it, but there is an intention that we have to probably question as well, perhaps. But Maulana will probably come in on this.
Yeah, there are two things. You know, in those times, people, when you wanted to go for Hajj, as Brother Johan said, you had to travel months, you know. It's not like a flight from here to Jeddah and then traveling from Jeddah on bus to Mecca or Medina and then starting your Hajj. You know, it wasn't like that. For months you had to prepare for months for that journey. It wasn't, your family wasn't with you. People usually, but there used to be caravans. You know, people didn't used to go as individual. They used to travel in groups of Hujjaj who used to go to the cities. And number two, they used to do business also. You know, they used to buy some commodities, sell there on the ways, then buy something else sell it on the second stage and third stage, and they used to make earning, and they used to mix up also. It was not just going for Hajj, it was just also a sort of a business making, learning business and doing business also. And that's how they used to. Now you have got money, you have got, for example, 3,000 pounds and or 3,500 or 5,000, depending on where you want to stay, and just buy a ticket and just a caravan, and you bang there, and 1 week stay there, come back. Although the journey has become very convenient these days, but where do you spend the energy saved by that convenience? If you are just doing that and spending that, 1 week I'm there, and the next week I'm back, and I'm doing my business again, will this 1 week be enough to clear the contaminations of our mind, soul, and body? Will it be enough that we spend 1 week there, and in that time we used to spend about a month there, or more than a month while traveling? It depends on that. Number two, having 5-star hotels and all these things, no doubt. The real thing, as I said in my previous discussion, that the first thing we do is put on that ihram, we are taking off our clothes. So we are again linked to that 5-star lavish life. How can we understand what the people? Allah wants us to be equal with those people. With those people who are doing the Hajj. A person might be a very poor person. He's putting on that same ihram. I'm putting the same ihram. But I'm staying in the 5-star hotel, and he's staying there in the normal life. He's leading a life of the 98% of the world.
That's a great point.
And
that's a great point, and I'm going to bring Sheikh Amin back in on this before I drop his call. I don't want to run his bill up. His family might not thank me for running up a huge bill.
It's a free call, I think.
Yeah, I hope it's a free call. It was supposed to be.
Don't worry about my bills.
I haven't got you on Skype, and we were planning to have you on Skype, so I'm wondering why we've only got you on the phone. But I'm going to ask you to come back after the break via Skype to talk about the other rituals, the more detailed ritual symbols of latter day Islam, if you like, and how they've evolved. But finally, this issue of 5 stars. I mean, there's a huge Big Ben planted up above the Kaaba these days, isn't there? I mean, that seems a little odd, full of modern bazaars and goodness knows what. Is that in keeping with the spirit of Hajj?
I think perhaps we're a trifle harsh. When we set out for Jummah prayers, we receive the reward from the first step. Many of the people who are flying and staying in what are alleged to be 5-star hotels have worked for a year or 2 years, saved that money with the intention of going on Hajj. They've made sacrifices in trade, business, etc., and it all has to be halal income. So the journey for them is perhaps just as long, though less dangerous perhaps, than the people who travelled with little money trading on the way. So the intention in your life to go on Hajj is from when you're on the journey. The attitude changes as you prepare to go on Hajj, your personal attitudes. And this is part of the process of Hajj. It's not just about being in Makkah. It's about intending to be there in submission.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I mean, it's nice to have a juxtaposed opinion from the panel here as well, Sheikh Amin. I'm going to let you drop this call now, but straight after the news break, it'd be lovely to connect you back via Skype and bring you in on the second part of the conversation. Thank you very much. So I
look forward to it.
Thank you very much. So, so moving on to maybe another ritual before the break. If you were to pick one, which one would it be?
I think the Hajj is still, there's quite a bit to say about Hajj, The thing is that breaking up our own background, our own wishes, and clearing them away is just a starting point of a Hajj is a defined thing, like stoning the shayateen, what is that? Like, for example, sacrificing an animal, what is that?
What are they?
For example, sacrificing an animal. People take it as just have a goat there or a sheep there and just sacrifice it in the way of Allah. It's not just that sheep. It's a repetition of the sacrifice of Hazrat Ibrahim, who is sacrificing his son Ismail in the way of Allah. All the sheep was sacrificed there, but he was in Ismail for Ibrahim. The whole worldly love was his son, which he got in his old age, and he got young when he's in his youth, a prime youth. In very young, that's the best age when the father loves a son, and he's going to sacrifice that. What is our love? Our love with money, our love with our social status, our love with our 5-star hotels, our love with, we have to sacrifice that for Hajj. In that we have to get rid of it. Islamic ibadat are for an individual, for a group of a family, and for the whole community. And as an individual, like you were saying about prayers, we do salah at home is different than salah in congregation in a city. And Jummah prayers, or for example, Eid prayers, are to be held where the whole city gets together and they mix up. In Hajj, all the people from different countries, they come together and they throw away their personal desires.
Is there dialogue between those people at Hajj?
Of course. Of course. It has to be a political dialogue. It has to be a social dialogue. They have to discuss the affairs of the world Muslims there.
Does it
It's
happen?
a world congress.
Do you think it happens, or do
Yeah,
people
to
just
some
go in their
extent.
little groups
Yes,
and
to
come
some-
back as little groups?
To some extent, obviously it happens. It's happening, but not as a Hajj, because Hajj is, I think, it's not in its original form as it used to be in the time of the Prophet.
So you think there's a change in the way that we're
Of course,
doing the Hajj?
It's been changed. Like the prayers, like the
It's
fasting,
inevitable.
everything has been made.
The numbers are so
The
huge.
social aspects of Hajj are not there.
Okay, so Hel, come in on this.
Well, I was going to say that just looking at the size of the Hajj itself, where you have millions of people there as opposed to hundreds of people where the original Hajj was performed. I can't remember the exact number of the first Hajj,
Yes,
how many people, but it was a matter of just a few people performing that. So it can't possibly be the same interaction. Groups will tend to be very introverted, and the setup will be very introverted. This is the Afghani quarter, this is the Iranian quarter, there's the Greek quarter, there's the whatever, because people are coming from everywhere. So it can't possibly be have all of those things. But there again, it is down to the individuals what you want from it. Because I have spoken to people who have gone over and spoken to people from across the divide, shall we say, across different caravans, etc. So it's a very personal thing as to what this is. And I'd like to add something else. I know you've got a news break coming up, and perhaps we should talk about this after the news break. But there are elements of the rituals which people don't understand, with specifically to do with the sacrifice. And I'd like to perhaps come back.
We'll spend a little bit more time on those. It's a massive subject, and we're
Yes.
probably going to spill into the next open dialogue, and I think rightly so, because rituals and symbols really are the first thing you see about another person of faith. Often in communities that I've grown up in, Sunnis and Shias particularly won't even see eye to eye, because the first thing you will ask anybody from either faith, and particularly the Sunni fraternity, is they'll say, oh, what do the Shia do during Muharram? And their first thing is they'll understand that there's something called Matam. They won't understand why, what the purpose is, what the history is, what the social context is, how it developed, how it evolved, but they'll make a judgment there and then. Because the immediate image of something which they're not used to, which isn't part of their ritual heritage or part of their thing, creates a judgmentalism and creates a difference. That difference is very, very dangerous in this day and age. And if rituals become a source of difference, if they're not explained carefully, then I'd suggest in a world in which Muslims are being divided over and over again, perhaps rituals need to be reviewed, and the way we project our rituals and the way we educate each other about our rituals is of increasing importance, because the average man on the street doesn't know about polemics and the doctrine and dogma, or whether qadha or qadr is right or wrong. He knows about what the other man is doing, and if he's not doing it the way you're doing it, he's willing to judge him as being not of him. On that note, we're going to go for the news break, and join us right after the show with your questions ready as well. Call lines will be open.